In the vast expanse of the known universe, countless species had evolved across millions of worlds. The Galactic Summit Council had categorized and ranked every sentient race according to their evolutionary path, technological advancement, and biological capabilities. At the very top of this hierarchy sat those species who had mastered both their environments and their predatory instincts. Apex civilizations who had conquered not just their worlds, but star systems. The observation post orbiting Terror 3 was officially designated Nebulous Inquiry Station. It was a sleek, curved structure of polished alloys that reflected the blue-green planet below. The station's primary function was to monitor emerging intelligent species, categorize their evolutionary trajectory, and determine their potential threat level to the galactic community. Commander Zethral adjusted his ocular implants as he prepared for another routine observation shift. His species, the Vextari, prided themselves on their evolutionary perfection. They had eliminated all biological weaknesses over millennia of genetic refinement. Their gray, scaled skin was impervious to most environmental hazards, and their enhanced cerebral capacity allowed them to process information at rates that would overwhelm most other sentient beings. "Surveillance cycle beginning," announced the station's AI. "Terror 3 monitoring protocols engaged." Zethral nodded to his team of 6 specialists, each from a different apex civilization. They represented the best xenobiologists, evolutionary theorists, and behavioral analysts in the quadrant. Lieutenant Pix, the diminutive Quillarian, with silver eyes that could perceive across 12 different visual spectrums, adjusted the observation screens. "Focus on grid sector 47B, Zethral commanded. The northern temperate forest region showed unusual activity during the last cycle. The holographic display shimmered and zoomed in on a densely wooded area. The team had been tracking a pack of large, predatory canids, classified as apex predators within their ecosystem. These creatures, known to the local dominant bipeds as wolves, had been of particular interest due to their complex social structures and hunting strategies. "Magnification increasing," reported Lieutenant Commander Vela, her tentacled appendages gliding across the control interface. "We have visual on the Wolfpack Alpha. It appears to be—" She paused, her bioluminescent spots flashing in confusion. The display revealed something that made every member of the observation team freeze in disbelief. A human, one of the dominant bipedal species of Terror 3, was sitting beside the wounded alpha wolf. The massive predator lay on its side, breathing laboriously, clearly dying from what appeared to be injuries sustained in a territorial dispute. But, instead of fleeing from this dangerous creature, as evolutionary instinct should dictate, the human was gently stroking the wolf's fur. Even more incomprehensible, the human appeared to be speaking softly to the apex predator, offering what could only be described as comfort in its final moments. This cannot be correct," Zethral stammered, his typically unflappable demeanor cracking. "Run a diagnostic on the observation equipment. There must be some malfunction." Dr. Krell, the team's senior xenobiologist, leaned forward, his compound eyes widening. "The equipment is functioning perfectly, Commander. What we're witnessing is real." The observation team watched in stunned silence as the human remained with the wolf for hours, until the creature finally stopped breathing. The human then covered the dead predator with a blanket, performed what appeared to be some kind of ritual gesture, and slowly walked away. "This defies all evolutionary principles," Zethral finally said, his voice barely audible. "No species sits with its predator. This is impossible." Dr. Krell's appendages trembled slightly as he recorded the final observational notes. "We need to report this to the Summit Council immediately. This behavior requires explanation." The emergency transmission to the Galactic Summit Council was sent with the highest priority classification. Within 19 galactic standard hours, the Council's central chamber was filled with representatives from the 50 most advanced civilizations in the known galaxy. The massive circular hall, with its soaring crystalline dome that displayed the real-time positions of every member world, buzzed with unusual tension. Emergency sessions were rare, typically called only for imminent threats like supernova events or aggressive expansion by unaligned species. High Counselor Zax, whose species had evolved beyond the need for physical bodies millennia ago and now existed as energy patterns contained in specialized suits, called the session to order. "We have received disturbing footage from Observation Station Nebulous Inquiry." Zax's melodious voice resonated through the chamber. "The material appears to contradict our fundamental understanding of evolutionary progression." The central holographic projector activated, displaying the recorded scene of the human sitting with the dying wolf. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the assembly. Ambassador Quiltex of the Arthropod Confederation rose on his 8 segmented limbs. "This must be a system error or deliberate deception. No species would willingly approach its natural predator, much less comfort it in death. This violates every principle of evolutionary survival." "The data has been verified through 17 independent protocols," countered Dr. Krell, who had been summoned to present the findings. "What you are witnessing is genuine." General Morax of the Draconian Fleet pounded his armored fist on the council table. "These humans have been an anomaly since we first discovered them. They build structures that serve no survival function. They create images and sounds they call art that convey no useful information. And now this." His reptilian eyes narrowed to slits. "I propose we reclassify them as an evolutionary aberration and increase surveillance." Dr. Mira, the Council's chief evolutionary theorist, a being of pure light contained within a crystalline matrix, pulsed thoughtfully. "Perhaps we are witnessing not an aberration, but a different path of evolution, one we have not previously considered." "Impossible!" barked General Morax. "Evolution follows predictable patterns across all worlds. Predator and prey, competition for resources, survival of the fittest. These humans are defying natural law." "Or perhaps," Dr. Mira's voice was gentle but firm, "our understanding of natural law is incomplete." The debate raged for hours, with factions forming among the council members. Some insisted the humans must be employing some technology or chemical agent to subdue the predator. Others suggested this might be an isolated incident performed by a mentally defective individual. A few quieter voices wondered if this behavior might actually represent something new. Finally, High Counselor Zax raised a glowing appendage for silence. "This matter requires direct investigation. I hereby authorize Nebulous Inquiry Team to conduct a covert ground mission. Observe these humans closely. Determine if this behavior is anomalous or representative. Report back within 1 planetary rotation of Terra 3. The council session adjourned with an air of unease. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy's most advanced civilizations felt a collective sense of uncertainty. Back at Nebulous Inquiry Station, Commander Zethral assembled his team for the unprecedented mission. They would use the station's most advanced cloaking technology to observe humans directly, focusing particularly on their interactions with other species. "Remember," Zethral instructed, "we are observers only. Under no circumstances are we to interact with the subjects. Our mission is to collect data, not interfere." The team's sleek observation craft entered Terror 3's atmosphere under cover of darkness. They established a hidden base camp near a facility the humans called a wildlife rehabilitation center, a concept that had baffled the observation team when they first encountered it. Why would any species expend resources to heal animals that served no agricultural or defensive purpose? For 3 local days, the team observed in shifts. They watched as humans brought in injured creatures, birds with broken wings, deer with infected wounds, even small predators like foxes suffering from disease or poisoning. The humans treated these animals with careful attention, using medicines, surgical techniques, and supportive care. On the fourth day, Lieutenant Pix was monitoring a human female working with a juvenile wolf that had been orphaned. She was bottle-feeding the young predator, speaking to it in soothing tones. "Fascinating," Pix whispered into the recording device. "The human appears to be treating this predator offspring as if it were of her own species. She is exhibiting nurturing behaviors typically reserved for—" The lieutenant's commentary was interrupted when the human female suddenly looked directly at the spot where Pix was hidden, behind the cloaking field. "I know someone's there," the human called out. "I've noticed the distortion in the air for days now. You might as well come out." Pix froze, unsure how to respond. The team's directive was clear: no contact. But their cloaking technology had somehow been detected, compromising the mission. After a tense moment of silence, the human spoke again, her voice calm but firm. "I'm Dr. Maya Lin, lead wildlife veterinarian at this facility. I don't know who or what you are, but if you're interested in our work, I'd prefer you ask questions directly rather than lurking in corners." Back at the hidden base camp, Pix's transmission threw the team into crisis. "How could they detect our presence?" Vela demanded. "Our cloaking technology is generations beyond anything they possess." Zethral paced the small command center. "It appears we have underestimated these humans. Again." He made a swift decision. "Captain Thex, prepare for first contact protocols. If our covert observation has been compromised, we must adapt our approach." Captain Thex, whose crystalline exoskeleton refracted light in iridescent patterns, looked alarmed. "Commander, the Council did not authorize direct contact." "The Council authorized us to gather information," Zethral countered. "Our current methods have been compromised. We must evolve our tactics." After intense debate, a compromise was reached. Captain Thex would make contact, posing as a visiting researcher from a distant academic institution. His natural form would be concealed by a holographic disguise, making him appear human. The rest of the team would remain hidden, continuing their observations from a safe distance. The next morning, Captain Thex approached the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center, his holographic disguise projecting the image of a tall, bearded human male in professional attire. He carried falsified credentials, identifying him as Dr. Thomas Zander, from an institution the team had verified existed on the other side of the planet. Dr. Maya Lin met him at the entrance, her expression a mixture of professional courtesy and barely concealed suspicion. "Dr. Zander," she greeted him, extending her hand in the customary human fashion. "Welcome to our facility. Your request to observe our work with apex predators was unexpected. We don't often get international visitors without prior arrangement." Thex took her hand awkwardly, having practiced the gesture, but still finding it strange. "Thank you for accommodating me on such short notice. Your work with predator species has become quite notable in certain circles." Dr. Lin's eyes narrowed slightly. "Has it? Well, I'm happy to show you around, though I must ask that you follow our protocols precisely. These animals are recovering from trauma, and their well-being is our priority." She led him through the facility, explaining their rehabilitation procedures, medical treatments, and release programs. Thex was struck by the resources and attention devoted to creatures that, on any other world, would be either avoided or eliminated as threats. "This wolf pack was rescued after a forest fire destroyed their territory," Dr. Lin explained, as they observed a family group of wolves in a large enclosure. The alpha female had severe burns, and 2 of the juveniles suffered smoke inhalation. "We've been treating them for 3 months." "And then?" Thex asked. "What happens to them once they are healed?" "We'll release them into protected wilderness once they're strong enough," she replied. "We've already identified a suitable territory with adequate prey species and minimal human contact. Thex struggled to comprehend this approach. You spend considerable resources to heal creatures that would kill you if given the opportunity, only to release them back into the wild where they might threaten human settlements. Dr. Lin gave him a long, evaluating look. These animals aren't our enemies, Dr. Xander. They're essential parts of a healthy ecosystem. Apex predators regulate prey populations, which in turn prevents overgrazing and maintains plant diversity. Remove wolves from an environment, and you eventually lose not just deer, but birds, insects, and even change the course of rivers as erosion patterns shift. She paused, studying his reaction. But you should know this, given your research background. Thex realized he was in dangerous territory. Of course, I'm simply surprised by the practical implementation, the dedication of resources. It's not just about ecological balance, Dr. Lin continued, leading him toward another area. It's about responsibility. Humans have the power to destroy or preserve. We've chosen to preserve. As they approached a quieter section of the facility, Dr. Lin suddenly stopped and turned to face him directly. Now, Dr. Xander, if that is your name, would you like to tell me who you really are and why you and your colleagues have been watching us? The distortion field around you isn't perfect. You know, there are moments when the light catches it just right, and I can see something different underneath. Thex felt a surge of alarm ripple through his crystalline structure, causing his holographic disguise to flicker momentarily. Dr. Lin didn't flinch. I thought as much. The diplomatic crisis that followed was unprecedented. Captain Thex, his cover blown, had made the difficult decision to reveal his true nature to Dr. Lin, judging that maintaining the deception would only worsen relations with this unexpectedly perceptive species. Dr. Lin's reaction had been surprisingly measured, initial shock giving way to intense curiosity rather than fear. She had agreed to keep the contact confidential, speaking only to a small team of trusted colleagues, while facilitating further observation and discussion. Back at the Galactic Summit Council, the news of direct contact sparked outrage among many members. This is a catastrophic breach of protocol, thundered Ambassador Quiltex. We have strict non-interference policies with developing worlds. High Counselor Zax's energy form pulsed with concern. What's done is done. We must now decide how to proceed given this new reality. Dr. Krell presented the preliminary findings from the ground team's observations, including recorded conversations with Dr. Lin and her colleagues. The behavior we initially observed appears to be consistent across their species, he reported. Humans regularly devote significant resources to caring for other species, including predators that pose potential threats to them. They have global organizations dedicated to preserving biodiversity, protecting endangered species, and rehabilitating injured wildlife. But why? Demanded General Morax. What evolutionary advantage does this provide them? Dr. Mira's crystalline form shimmered as she spoke. They claim it maintains ecological balance, which ultimately benefits their own survival. But there seems to be another factor at work, something they call empathy. It appears to be a highly developed form of the pack bonding instinct seen in social species, but extended far beyond their own kind. That's preposterous, General Morax growled. No species evolves to care for potential threats. It contradicts every principle of natural selection. Yet, here we have an entire civilization that has done exactly that, countered Dr. Mira. And rather than perishing as our models would predict, they have flourished. The debate continued for days, with the council deeply divided. Some members saw the humans as a dangerous anomaly that needed careful monitoring. Others were intrigued by the possibility that they represented an alternative evolutionary path, one that emphasized cooperation alongside competition. Finally, Dr. Krell requested permission to present additional evidence. At his signal, a new holographic display activated in the center of the council chamber. My team has compiled a comprehensive analysis of human behavior toward other species across their planet, he explained. What you are seeing is not isolated to a few individuals or communities. It is a global pattern. The display showed humans in various settings, creating vast preserves for endangered species, passing laws to protect animals from cruelty, developing medical treatments for wildlife, organizing international conservation efforts, even refusing to eat other animals out of ethical concerns. Most remarkably, Dr. Krell continued, this behavior crosses all their cultural boundaries. Humans with otherwise profound differences in beliefs will unite to save a beached marine mammal or rescue animals from disaster areas. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. High Counselor Zax finally spoke. It appears we must reconsider some of our most fundamental assumptions about evolutionary advancement. Perhaps there is more than one path to the stars. General Morax rose from his seat, his massive frame tense with contained energy. This changes nothing. Competition is the driving force of evolution across the galaxy. These humans are merely in a temporary phase, a luxury afforded by their current resource abundance. When faced with true scarcity or threat, they will revert to predatory behavior, like all species. Dr. Lin's voice suddenly echoed through the chamber, startling the assembled delegates. The communication link with Terror 3 had remained active, and she had been listening to the proceedings. I beg to differ, General, she said calmly. Human history provides a counter-argument. We have faced numerous global threats and resource shortages. During our worst crises, cooperation and mutual aid increased rather than decreased. When resources are scarcest, those human societies that maintained strong cooperative bonds survived, while those that devolved into pure competition often perished. General Morax's scales flushed with anger. You speak of your own species with remarkable confidence, human. Yet you cannot deny that your kind has also engaged in terrible conflicts, environmental destruction, and cruelty toward other creatures. We have, Dr. Lin acknowledged. We are far from perfect, but our capacity for empathy, including toward other species, has grown over time, not diminished. We've come to understand that our well-being is interconnected with all life on our planet. Pretty words, sneered General Morax. But they contradict biological reality. Predator and prey cannot truly coexist in harmony. One must dominate or be dominated. That is the universal law. Dr. Lin's voice remained steady. With respect, General, perhaps it's not a universal law, but simply the limit of your current understanding. On our world, we've learned that the strongest ecosystems are those with the greatest diversity, where predator and prey exist in balance. Remove either, and the system collapses. The tension in the council chamber was palpable as two worldviews collided. For millennia, the advanced civilizations of the galaxy had operated on the principle that evolution was driven primarily by competition, the strong surviving at the expense of the weak. The idea that cooperation and empathy might be equally powerful evolutionary forces threatened to upend their entire galactic hierarchy. After hours of heated debate, High Counselor Zax called for a decision. We face a profound choice. The energy being declared. We can dismiss the human model as an aberration, or we can acknowledge that our understanding of evolutionary processes may be incomplete. The vote was close, but in the end, curiosity prevailed over tradition. The Council authorized the establishment of a formal cultural exchange program with Earth, focusing initially on wildlife conservation efforts. The program would be closely monitored, with regular reports back to the Council on its progress and implications. General Morax and his faction left the chamber in protest, warning that this decision would undermine the evolutionary principles that had guided galactic civilization for countless generations. As the nebulous inquiry team prepared to return to Earth, this time openly, as official representatives of the Galactic Summit Council, Commander Zethral found himself reflecting on the unexpected turn of events. "I never imagined our routine observation mission would lead to this," he confessed to Captain Thex as they prepared their diplomatic credentials. Thex's crystalline form shimmered with what might have been amusement. "Perhaps we have been the ones under observation all along, Commander. These humans saw something in us that we didn't recognize in ourselves." The Terran Wildlife Cultural Exchange Program began modestly, with a small delegation of galactic representatives working alongside Dr. Lin and her colleagues at the Rehabilitation Center. Initially, many of the staff were understandably nervous about their extraterrestrial visitors, but professional curiosity quickly overcame apprehension. Lieutenant Pix proved particularly adept at forming connections with the humans. The diminutive aliens' genuine fascination with Earth's biodiversity and respectful approach to the facility's protocols earned the trust of even the most skeptical staff members. "Your visual acuity across multiple spectrums is incredible," Dr. Lin remarked, as she observed Pix examining a hawk with an injured wing. "You can detect inflammation before our instruments can." Pix's silver eyes blinked rapidly, an expression of pleasure in Quillarian body language. "And your intuitive understanding of animal behavior is equally remarkable. You seem to know what they are feeling without any technological assistance." Dr. Lin smiled. "It's not mysterious. It's just experience and attention. When you spend enough time with other living beings, you learn to read the subtle signs." Over the following months, the exchange of knowledge flowed in both directions. The galactic representatives shared advanced medical techniques that helped the Rehabilitation Center treat injuries and illnesses that would have been fatal before. In return, they observed and documented the human approach to conservation, with its emphasis on preserving entire ecosystems rather than just individual species. Commander Zethrol, who had initially been the most skeptical about human evolutionary strategy, found himself increasingly intrigued by their methods. He spent long hours with Dr. Lin, discussing the philosophical underpinnings of human conservation efforts. "Your species seems to have moved beyond pure self-interest," he noted during one such conversation. "You protect creatures that offer you no direct benefit." Dr. Lin considered this as they walked along a forest path near the Rehabilitation Center. "I'm not sure that's entirely accurate. We protect them because we understand that we are part of an interconnected system. The benefit may not be immediate or obvious, but it exists." She stopped to observe a spider constructing its web between two branches. "Take this spider. Most humans instinctively fear spiders, yet we recognize their importance in controlling insect populations. If we eliminated them because of our fear, we would face consequences we might not anticipate." Zethrol watched the arachnid's methodical movements. "On my world, we engineered our environment to eliminate all threats. We saw it as the pinnacle of evolutionary control." "And what happened to your ecosystem?" Dr. Lin asked gently. Zethrol's scaled skin darkened slightly, a sign of discomfort among the Vextari. "It collapsed. We maintain artificial environments now. Nothing exists that we do not deliberately cultivate." Dr. Lin nodded, but said nothing, allowing the implication to hang in the air between them. 6 months into the exchange program, the moment of truth arrived. The wolf pack that had been rehabilitating at the center was ready for release. Dr. Lin invited the galactic delegation to observe the process, knowing it would be a powerful demonstration of human conservation philosophy in action. The release site was a remote wilderness area, carefully selected to provide the pack with adequate territory and prey, while minimizing potential conflicts with human settlements. The wolves had been transported in specialized containers designed to minimize stress. As the rehabilitation team made final preparations, Zethrol approached Dr. Lin. "I must ask, after investing so much in these creatures' recovery, how do you simply let them go? Does it not seem wasteful?" Dr. Lin smiled. "That's the point, Commander. We don't heal them for our benefit. We heal them so they can return to fulfilling their natural role in the ecosystem. Success isn't measured by what we gain, but by their renewed freedom and function. The team positioned the transport containers at the edge of a clearing, facing the dense forest beyond. With practiced efficiency, they opened the containers remotely and stepped back to observe from a safe distance. One by one, the wolves emerged cautiously. The alpha female appeared first, her once burned coat now glossy and thick. She surveyed the surroundings, nose testing the air, ears swiveling to capture every sound. Behind her, the rest of the pack followed, juveniles now nearly grown, subordinate adults moving with renewed strength. For several minutes, the pack remained at the edge of the clearing, alert and evaluating. Then, with no warning, the alpha female turned and looked directly at the observation point where Dr. Lin and the galactic delegates were hidden. "She knows we're here," Dr. Lin whispered. "She always had the sharpest senses of the group." The wolf held their gaze for a long moment, as if in acknowledgement. Then she turned and loped into the forest, her pack following in perfect formation. Within seconds, they had vanished among the trees, reclaimed by the wilderness. An unexpected sound broke the silence. Zethril was making a strange, rhythmic noise. Dr. Lin realized with astonishment that the commander was laughing. "In all my centuries," he said, "I have never witnessed anything like this. On any world I have studied, predator and prey maintain their distance. Yet here, your species has temporarily suspended that boundary, only to deliberately restore it." He shook his head in wonder. "You humans are truly a paradox." Dr. Lin smiled. "Life is full of paradoxes, Commander. Perhaps the greatest wisdom lies in embracing them rather than trying to resolve them." The success of the Wolfpack release was documented in detail and transmitted to the Galactic Summit Council. The report included not just the technical aspects of the rehabilitation and release process, but also the ecological monitoring that would continue for years to track the pack's integration back into the wild. 10 years later, representatives from over 200 galactic civilizations gathered on Earth for the first Xenobiological Summit, a conference dedicated to sharing approaches to species conservation and ecological management across worlds. The event was held in a massive biodome constructed specifically for the occasion, containing carefully maintained habitats representing Earth's diverse ecosystems. Commander Zethril, now Ambassador Zethril, stood at the podium to deliver the opening address. Behind him, a massive view screen displayed real-time footage from monitoring stations throughout Earth's protected wilderness areas, including one showing the original Wolfpack, now expanded to 3 interconnected family groups, thriving in their territory. "A decade ago," Zethril began, "I observed something that challenged everything I thought I knew about evolutionary processes. I saw a human sitting beside a dying apex predator, offering comfort rather than taking advantage of its vulnerability." He paused, looking out at the assembled delegates, a diverse collection of beings from across the galaxy, many visiting Earth for the first time. That moment revealed a truth that had eluded our galactic community for millennia. We had assumed that evolution invariably favored competition over cooperation, domination over coexistence. The humans showed us another possibility, that empathy could be not a weakness, but a strength. Not an evolutionary dead end, but a new beginning. In the audience, Dr. Lin smiled. The years of cultural exchange had transformed not just galactic attitudes toward Earth, but humanity's understanding of its place in the wider universe. Humans had learned that they were neither as advanced as they had hoped, nor as primitive as they had feared. They occupied a unique evolutionary niche, one defined not by technological superiority or physical dominance, but by their capacity to care for other species and their shared environment. Today, Ambassador Zethril continued, "We gather to learn from each other. Some of your worlds have developed conservation approaches that differ from Earth's, but achieve similar goals. Others are just beginning to restore ecosystems damaged by earlier stages of development. All of us recognize that biological diversity is not merely an aesthetic preference, but the foundation of planetary health. The summit continued for 2 weeks, with presentations ranging from practical techniques for species rehabilitation to philosophical discussions about the rights of non-sentient creatures. Engineers shared designs for habitat preservation systems. Medical specialists exchanged treatments for wildlife diseases, and ecologists debated the ethics of intervention versus natural regulation. On the final day, the delegates gathered in the central dome for a special presentation. The lights dimmed, and a holographic display activated, showing a three-dimensional recreation of the scene that had started it all. A human, sitting beside a dying wolf, offering comfort in its final moments. This image once confused and disturbed us, Ambassador Zethral said quietly. We saw it as a violation of natural order, a bewildering anomaly that contradicted our understanding of evolution. The hologram shifted, expanding to show similar scenes from across Earth. Humans caring for injured elephants, nursing orphaned tiger cubs, disentangling whales from fishing nets, creating sanctuaries for endangered species. Now we understand that what we witnessed was not an aberration, but a revelation. The humans had discovered something that had eluded even the most advanced civilizations, that the highest expression of intelligence is not domination, but compassion. The hologram changed again, now showing scenes from other worlds, delegates returning to their home planets and implementing conservation programs inspired by the Earth model. On a dozen different worlds, beings of diverse forms were working to protect and restore their native species, rebuilding the ecological relationships that technological development had damaged. This is the true legacy of our encounter with Earth, Ambassador Zethral concluded. Not merely the preservation of wolves or whales or any single species, but a fundamental reconsideration of our relationship with all life. We came to study humans as an evolutionary curiosity. We depart as students of a profound wisdom, that in caring for the most vulnerable, we ensure the survival of all. As the summit concluded, and the delegates prepared to return to their respective worlds, Dr. Lin found herself standing with Ambassador Zethral in the monitoring center, watching the real-time feed from the Wolfpack's territory. The alpha female, now elderly, but still commanding, was leading the youngest generation of the pack on a hunt, teaching them the skills they would need to survive. They never needed us, Dr. Lin said softly. Not really. They survived for millennia before humans existed, and they would have found a way to continue without our intervention. Ambassador Zethral's scaled skin shimmered in the dim light. Perhaps, but what would you have lost by not helping them? Dr. Lin considered this. Our humanity, I suppose, or at least an essential part of it. Precisely, Zethral replied. In saving them, you saved something in yourselves as well. That is the paradox we've failed to understand for so long, that strength can manifest as gentleness, that power can express itself through restraint, that the apex of evolution might not be the species that dominates all others, but the one that ensures all can flourish. The monitor showed the wolf pack disappearing into the twilight forest, moving as a single coordinated organism, neither fully wild nor truly tame, but existing in the balance point between, preserved not through control but through respect. When we first saw a human sitting next to a dying apex predator, Zethral mused, we asked what evolutionary advantage this could possibly provide. Now we know the answer. Dr. Lin smiled. And what is that? The advantage of understanding that we are all part of the same web, Zethral replied. Predator and prey, alien and human, all connected in ways too complex to fully comprehend, but too important to ignore. He gestured toward the monitor, where the wolves had vanished into the gathering darkness. In the end, the greatest predator is not the one with the sharpest teeth or the strongest claws, but the one with the wisdom to know when not to use them. Outside the monitoring station, the sun set over the protected wilderness. Somewhere in the forest, wolves howled, a sound that had nearly been silenced forever, but now rang clear again, carrying across valleys and ridgelines, a living testament to the power of empathy to transform not just individual lives, but entire worlds. In the vast network of galactic civilizations, the story spread, of the species that had defied evolutionary expectations, that had sat beside its predators rather than destroying them, that had discovered in compassion a strength that transcended biological imperatives. It was a story that challenged ancient hierarchies and comfortable assumptions, that asked difficult questions about the true meaning of advancement and the ultimate direction of intelligent life. And it had all begun with a single, bewildering image: a human sitting next to a dying apex predator, offering comfort rather than conquest, a moment of connection that had reverberated across the stars and changed the course of galactic understanding forever.